Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast, Smart Man, Smarter Woman, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And thank you very much for joining us today. I am Steve Loates.
And I am Juliet Aurora.
And we are your co-hosts. And today we have something a little bit different for you. You're going to be stuck with us today. We fired all the guests, decided we didn't want a guest for today's episode. Actually, that's not true. It's when this episode goes live, it's going to be January the 1st, 2021. And it's going to be the start of, well,
awesome.
I'm sure it will be an awesome new year for everyone out there. So Juliet and I want to do just take a few minutes just to talk about some things, a little bit maybe about 2020, touch on some of the guests we've had since the last time we did a show with just the two of us, and talk about 2021. And Juliet, since it's ladies first, would you like to begin?
Oh, that's so thoughtful of you. Thank you, Steve. It's actually going to be, I think, a conversation more about putting last year in the past and thinking forward to bigger and brighter things for 2021. I think that as an entrepreneur, no matter what your business industry was, you had some kind of a challenge last year. And I think that we've seen, just in our business alone, working with so many clients, we've seen the full range of businesses who thrived and businesses who pivoted and businesses who didn't, and businesses who struggled and were scared. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially over the last year, it's been more challenging than it ever has before. Being an entrepreneur is always a roller coaster. This last 9 or 10 months, even more so. And I guess what Steve and I wanted to do was provide you with some inspiration to embrace 2021, to let go of 2020, and maybe share some of the things that we're doing to try and accomplish that. Maybe it will help you. And we'd love to hear, your thoughts. If there are things that you're doing, you reach out to us. You can reach us, through the website, and I think our contact information is probably somewhere available through LinkedIn. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you as to what your successes were, if you had some challenges. Entrepreneurs don't always have a place to talk and share with people that understand, and that's what we're here for. So I guess from my perspective, that's kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish over the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so.
Awesome. Yeah, 2020, I think I've probably run out of words. And yes, I know that is hard to believe, but I've run out of words to describe it. Like, it has just been such an incredible, and I mean that in the good, the bad way, every way, experience. I mean, who would have thought, 1 year ago today, what it was going to be like, and all of the new challenges everyone would have to deal with, both professionally and personally. But I also think that what 2020 showed us is the resilience of the entrepreneur, the ingenuity of the entrepreneur, the tenacity of the entrepreneur, the never give up, the whatever it takes. And and we saw it, as you said, Juliet, talking with some of our clients. There was a point there back in the springtime where there were some experienced business people, who were legitimately afraid. They had no idea what was going to happen, how we were going to get through this, but we did. And people pushed through that fear. And just, as you said, so many pivoted and came up with ingenious ways of doing the same business differently, or taking their existing business and making it a different business. It was really, really inspirational to see it. I've always had, as you know, a soft spot for entrepreneurs. obviously, self-interest before myself. But I really, I don't have enough words to say what I saw, how proud I was to be an entrepreneur myself, how lucky we were with our own business that we didn't need to. I mean, there was a couple of moments where we were certainly nervous about what was going on, but we certainly didn't feel some of the pain in our business that so many others did. And for that, we have to be very grateful. But like I say, I think the biggest thing to me with 2020 was just watching the resilience and tenacity around us. Every time we looked at a business, the things they were doing to keep going and to, not just, help themselves, their business, but help their own team, and doing everything they can to make sure that their team kept their job. And, again, it wasn't perfect. Not everyone was, made it through unscathed. But just, I think the one thing that I saw anyway that was consistent was the effort. That everybody tried, to keep moving forward and never really knowing what next week was going to bring. I mean, not only with, this virus itself, but, programs from the government and all kinds of different things you had no control over, and you had to weather that storm, and they did. And so I think, like I say, I think every entrepreneur out there should be very proud of themselves. They are the heart and soul, I believe, of this economy, and they proved it once again that they are absolutely the heart and soul.
Well, and I guess one of the things I'd like to add to that is as well that there are businesses who didn't survive it. We're talking about the resilience of entrepreneurs, and that is not just directed to the ones that made it out on the other side. Even if you didn't, and your business, wasn't able to survive it for whatever reason, I think that as an entrepreneur, you still have to acknowledge that you did. You gave it your best shot. You gave it, your effort, and to not undervalue what that means, and don't assume that you're a bad entrepreneur because you didn't come out of it on the other side of this. So one of the things that, if you've spent any time with Steve and I, you'll know that we try as much as possible to be positive in our outlook, in how we view things. We don't always succeed, but most of the time we make a real effort and try and do that. So one of the things I thought maybe that we could talk about and share is some of the positives that came out. I mean, there's lots of people out there talking about all the negatives, and I thought maybe we could take a couple minutes and talk about some of the positive things that have come out of the last 9 or 10 months. And I'm happy to start, unless you would like to go first this time.
Oh, no. I would never hear the end of it, Juliet, if I did that. So, please feel free.
Well, see, the problem is that when I go first, and then when it's Steve's turn, he'll say, but you took all my things that I was going to say. So you're not allowed to say that.
There is a method in his madness, Juliet.
Okay. So I guess for me, one of the biggest positives, I guess it's a twofold, is there was a ton of personal reflection that took place for me as to what's important. Okay, why do I worry about that? In the grand scheme of things, think about all the other things that are important, and does this really matter? Will this matter next year? And so there was a lot of reflection about, the relationships that were in my life, the things that I worried about, the things that I thought were important that I realized weren't important at all, and got a clearer understanding of what was important for me and what I wanted my legacy to be, and where, there was a lot of thought around, okay, well, what if this was the end for me? Then is this what I want my life to look like? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind? So there was a positive thing I think came out of it was a lot of introspection for myself, and a much deeper sense of strong relationships with the people that I determined in this introspection were important to me, and that the connections with those people was much stronger than they ever have been before. So those, I think, are two really big positives for me that came out of the last 9 months. How about you, Steve?
Yeah.
And I just took yours?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, being shut in, locked down, however we want to phrase it, did put us in situations where self-reflection just became normal, it seemed. I mean, because we spent a lot of time in situations, alone, right? I mean, there was like outside of our immediate family, there was very little interaction with other people. Zoom became the tool of choice. And, we thought that was really cool, but now we're reaching a point where we're almost zoomed out. Please put me in a room with a couple of other people where we can actually talk face to face. It's
that is so true.
And yet, me, that was like, that's not what I normally love to do, but I do have to admit, I'm very much getting there. I guess this year, for me, personally, I was very glad we launched our podcast, something I've been talking about and wanting to do for a long time. And so when we launched it back in the spring, really, I think at a time when we really didn't know what was going to be happening with this COVID and how it was going to so dramatically and drastically affect so many people. And the thing I have enjoyed about the podcast and the guests, I guess, is the variety of guests, lots of different people, different backgrounds, different stories, different journeys. But I can honestly say I learned something from every one of them. And that, I think, was what I was hoping when we were talking about starting this podcast. And so that I think was great for me. I mean, we hung in there, kept doing it. And so that I think was a real positive for me. I think the other big thing, obviously, this year for me, and I'm not sure it's a positive yet. I haven't quite processed all of it. But for those of you who don't know, I turned 65 this year. And yeah. And I promised myself many, many years ago that when I turned 65, I was not going to retire because I'm not sure I could ever completely do that. I don't think that is in me. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And but that I would transition to start spending more time doing what I want to do. But still, of course, be involved in the business side because I want to be.
We will continue with our conversation right after this message from a friend of the show. AIS Solutions is an award-winning cloud accounting firm serving small businesses all across Canada. If you want to move your bookkeeping from the desktops of the dark ages to the cloud and get your financials wherever you are, whenever you want them, then contact AIS Solutions' team of trained professionals today at www.aissolutions.ca. And now, back to our conversation.
And when my birthday arrived in the fall, I wasn't as excited as I thought I was going to be. And as I
wasn't excited at all.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You weren't excited at all.
Yeah.
Part of that was because we were supposed to be in Santorini, Greece for his birthday, which obviously we couldn't be. So that was part of it and did allow for some of the reason, but you were not ecstatic at all about your turning 60.
And I think I've had a few weeks now to reflect on it because I feel better about it today than I did, 2 months ago. And I think if I could give some advice to the other entrepreneurs out there, particularly, if you're in your 50s and 60s, but even younger, spend some time planning what you want to do and spend some time planning what do you want your transition to look like? what do you want to spend that time doing? Because I don't think I spent enough time beforehand. And so I think when it arrived, it was, okay, I'm here now. Now what? Like what does this transition look like? And what is a day going to look like? And so I honestly and sincerely mean this, spend some time, map it out, write it down. I think it will help you when you reach your own point of transition and perhaps won't go through the little bump that I went through. But we're all good now because we've now spent some time planning and deciding what I want it to look like and what it is going to look like for me. And man, that did catch me off guard, I have to admit. So that was a pretty big one for this year.
Exciting. And I guess the other thing I think that was a positive that came out of it for us, again, I don't know how much you know about Steve and I personally, but we are amateur photographer junkies where we enjoy going out and taking pictures, and we don't do it enough and never do it enough. And so one of the things that comes up locally for us every summer is there is a local photographer who does a photography class for amateurs like us, that basically he gives you an assignment, gives you a topic, and then everyone in the class goes out, takes the pictures around this topic, and then we all meet back once a week and share each other's pictures and constructively critique it, say what you could do to improve it. And it's always, we've been doing it, I think, last 4 years, 3 or 4 years,
yeah.
And I've always enjoyed it. And it's a 6 or 8 week, I think it's an 8-week course, July and August. And so this year, it's always been in person. This year, they did it virtually. They offered it virtually. And I think that was good for us because it got us out of the house with our cameras on a weekly basis, which I think was good, especially over July and August. But one of the advantages to it all being virtual is they were able to run a fall session and a winter session. So we did one in October, which we never do. We're never out there taking pictures on a weekly basis in the fall because we only, we get sidetracked, and then he's starting another one in January, so we actually get to do a winter one as well. So I think that was a positive that came out of it for us, was that we were able to actually pull out some time and spend some time doing something that we both enjoy and that we don't make enough time for. So that's another positive for me for 2020.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think business-wise, the one big positive for us that we haven't talked about is taking our business virtual. And for us, it was something, we had actually been planning for probably a year or more, long before the pandemic. And the plan was that in June of this year, we were going to take our business 100% remote. And so we had been making some plans and doing some testing in the fall of 2019. And then obviously when COVID hit, we were forced to go remote a few months sooner than we had planned on. But it really went very, very smoothly, I think, because of what we had been planning. And now, I look back and is it something we should have done even sooner? I don't know, because I think it's been a real positive for our business and a real positive going forward. So that was a big step. I mean, that is the first time in over 10 years we have not had a bricks and mortar office to go to. So that was a big one, I think.
It was a big step for us, absolutely. It was a big step for our team. There was a lot of team members who were a little hesitant about it. I think that everyone was a little more relieved come March when it was forced upon us and we already had all the foundation in place. I'm still struggling with it, so I'm not going to say it's 100% positive, because there are days that I love it and there are days that I absolutely hate it and go stir crazy and no, I need to be going out of my house to go somewhere to work. So I'm still on the fence as to whether it's the right move for me personally. But part of that is only because I currently struggle with being able to separate work from home. And so for me, when my office is in the house, and that's part of the reason that we moved out of the house in the first place, was that I'm always thinking about work. because I'm thinking, well, my office is just there, my computer's already set up, and I'll just go in, and even if I don't physically go into the space, I'm still thinking about the space. So the verdict isn't in yet for me as to whether it's a positive, but it was easier over the summer when I had my pool, less so now that it's winter, but
yeah,
the verdict's still out for me. We'll see what 2021 looks like.
And I would agree with that. I think if I rephrased it slightly, I think it is absolutely the right thing for our business. And I think it will be the right thing for everyone, including yourself, when we start getting back to some sort of normalcy in our personal lives as well, where you can, go out, go where you want, when you want. And, then I think you can make steps to move your office somewhere where it's not in the house. And then I think that will make a big difference. But no, I understand your hesitation about giving it a big thumbs up at this point, because you're not happy with it.
All the time. I'm not happy with it all the time.
Yeah.
There are times that I love it, yeah, and I think it's great. But I think, even having the ability to pick up my laptop and go sit in a Starbucks and work for a couple hours would be enough to break it up for me, and I can't do that.
Right.
So I feel you're probably right that once things, whatever normal is going to look like,
yeah,
once I have a little bit of flexibility and freedom of being able to work somewhere else if I wanted to, that I could, it'll probably change it for me. But right now, it has been a struggle.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so let's jump into looking forward now. Mm-hmm. We've looked at some of the things going backwards for the last year. What are you most looking forward to in 2021?
I guess what I'm looking forward to is hopefully at some point in the year being able to travel somewhere outside of the 50-mile radius or 75-kilometer radius that I have traveled in the last 9 months. So I'm really optimistic that I think it'll probably be towards the later part of the year, but that we will actually be able to go somewhere. And that, because I love traveling, I love new places, new experiences, and I never realized how much being locked down would affect me, but it has. So that I'm really looking forward to.
Absolutely. And I actually think, I was thinking about this the other day. So in 2019, when January rolled around of 2019, our motto for that year was to live a life of experiences. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and so in 2019, that's what we did. Like we did things we'd never done before. We traveled to places we'd never traveled before. And I was thinking to myself, I'm so glad that wasn't the motto for 2020, because we didn't do any of it. So yes, 2021, definitely travel and such small things. I mean, usually in the fall, in November, it's conference season. And it's back-to-back conferences for us in the industry. And usually by the time Christmas rolls around, I am so conferenced out and I'm just exhausted. And so before conference season started this year, I was actually thinking, well, it might be kind of nice not to, be jumping from conference to conference. And I so miss it. And part of it was because we would attend a conference, and then in between some of them, we'd always go and spend a week on a beach. And it didn't seem like it was such a big thing, but not going to a beach this year, it's been horrible. It really has. So yes, travel definitely for me as well. Looking forward to it. It'll be interesting to see what that first trip is that we decide to take, because we have so many that we want to do, and so many that, we had planned out that this was 2020 travel, this was 2021 travel. So it'll be interesting to see what the first one is that we decide to take, but definitely travel. And I guess the other thing that I'm looking forward to in 2021 is I want to see, and it'll be interesting to see, how many of the positive changes around the world stick. So one of the things that has really come out of the last 9 or 10 months is how supportive everybody is of everybody else. To make, checking in on people to make sure that they're okay mentally, physically, financially, being, a better neighbor, a better daughter, a better wife, a better mother. I think a lot of that, appreciating teachers, which teachers had no appreciation for years, but there's a now appreciation for them. Appreciation for, all the frontline workers. They've never had that kind of recognition of what they add to society before. So I'm looking forward to seeing as well how much of that good stuff sticks when we do get back to normal. I honestly, I really hope it does, that we've had an awakening, and to not forget all of that and go back to, the traffic jams and the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and forget about all the other stuff as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, by our very nature, I think entrepreneurs are generally optimistic people. I think we have to be in many ways. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that a lot of good things will remain and will continue to change and evolve. So no, I'm optimistic that going forward, we will live and work in a better place. And the truth is, right, it is up to us. I mean, we are going to get what we make it.
Absolutely.
And so it is up to us, but I think that we may have gotten a little bit of a wake-up call this past year as to just how fleeting, life can be, and what is important and what isn't important, as you talked about earlier. And so, no, I'm very optimistic going forward that we will have learned some important lessons that will stick. So
I definitely hope that you're right.
Yeah. And I think that probably brings us close to the end of the show. We didn't want to take up too much time for everyone. Before I start to close out, do you have any final words you would like to say to our entrepreneurs looking forward?
Absolutely. I guess the first thing I'd like to do is thank all of you for hanging in with us over the last, I don't even know what episode number we're on, 40, something like that. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what episode we're on. There you go. But thank you to all of you for hanging in and listening to us and joining us every week. And that if there are topics that you want us to cover, please reach out to us and let us know. As Steve said, this is the whole purpose and the premise behind starting the podcast was to help entrepreneurs. So if there are topics that you want help with, let us know. And I think early on in 2021 in January, we've got, some plans to have a podcast around some planning and, planning so that you can have the best year in 2021. So I think that'll be a great episode as well. And hope that everyone had a fabulous holiday season, and best wishes to you for 2021.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, the same for me. I think before I do my final closing remarks, this wouldn't be a Smart Man, Smarter Woman podcast without our quote as we're winding down. And so the one I have selected for this episode is from JP Morgan. And it is, the first steps towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are.
Perfect. Great outlook for 2021.
Absolutely. And so, as Juliet said, I hope you all had a happy and safe holiday. Wish you nothing but the best for 2021 and beyond. I hope it is your best ever year, whatever you want that to look like personally and professionally. You deserve it. Believe it. Keep working at it. Maintain that stubbornness of an entrepreneur. It's very important. And so, keep going. So thank you for once again tuning in and giving us a listen. We would love it if you do subscribe. Sorry, I have to get that in there because we do want you to subscribe. And you can do that on the website, smartmansmarterwoman.com. So thank you to all of you sincerely. And until next time, take good care of yourself and those that you love. Bye for now.